sample. All right, so there's a bit of that as well. So it's possible to have a lot of processed foods that could get you into trouble and actually contribute to inflammation. So vegan is not a good description for a diet. In lifestyle medicine, what we talk about is the next level up, and that is a whole food as opposed to a processed food. So no processed foods, want whole foods. Nothing added, nothing taken away. It hasn't been doctored up by human beings, and we haven't put all these additives and junk and taken out things. No, it's whole food as it comes in nature. And it's plant-based as opposed to animal-based. So it's plants, so it comes from plants and it doesn't come from any animals, so no meat, dairy, or eggs. None of that. So it's whole food, which means it's whole. It does not include oils. Sorry, folks. Okay, oil is a processed food. It's a man-made food. And as we tested, it causes inflammation. It absolutely does. So the thing is, we want to stay away from those things that cause inflammation. Now, a whole food plant-based diet is absolutely a step up, and it can be really, really good. However, some people have had a long history of chronic inflammation for a long period of time. How many of you are familiar with people who have had chronic inflammation for 10, 15, 20 or more years? How many of you are familiar? You've seen that. So what we need to be able to do is actually go a level higher than a whole food plant-based diet. Whole food plant-based diet is great, but the next option up is an anti-inflammatory diet, a protocol. So an anti-inflammatory approach. Dr. Brooke Goldner is a friend of mine. Now, she wrote a book called Goodbye Lupus, and she shares her story of how she was diagnosed with lupus at the age of 16, ended up on chemotherapy for 2 whole years. She went through hell and back, and then eventually she met the right guy. She met the right guy, and Thomas Tadlog, who set her straight on being able to change her dietary approach. So she was able to do that, and he put her on a plant-based diet, but then they started to amp up the anti-inflammatory approach, and she's incredibly brilliant. And they looked at the research. And so one of the things that we want to be able to do is promote an anti-inflammatory approach to healing those chronic disease conditions as a treatment, as a natural treatment. So it turns out that there are 2 critical fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6. There's also omega-9 and saturated fats. Now, saturated fats, I don't care what the news media will tell you, that stuff is dangerous, it's toxic. It's no different, it has the same chemical properties as motor oil, okay? Same. So it's not good. Omega-9s are monounsaturated fats. They are also problematic. They cause all kinds of inflammation. But omega-6s and omega-3s are an interesting category. So omega-6s exist in a lot of animal foods. A lot of people go after the salmon for omega fatty acids, but they're not realizing that there's a lot of omega-6s, which end up being inflammatory. So omega-6s are pro-inflammatory, whereas omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Now, they both go through the same metabolic pathway. The biochemistry is very interesting with them. Now, what we want to be able to do is promote more omega-3s and decrease the omega-6s. And what Brooke Goldner was able to show is that most people with chronic disease conditions, especially the autoimmune disorders, like multiple sclerosis, for instance, they have far too much omega-6 in their bloodstream. I'm working with a client right now. She has multiple sclerosis. And we did her blood work, and we assessed her omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. So it was 9 parts of omega-6 to 1 part of omega-3. What we need to heal is to have an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of 1 to 1. That's what we're looking for. So what we're doing is these super special, amazing green smoothies. How many of you like smoothies? All right, this is my medicine. It's amazing. So I'm going to tell you how you make them. How many of you have a Vitamix? All right, if you don't, you want to get one. Or that, or a Blendtec. You want the high-powered blender. It makes a powerful difference. You want to do that. So here's the formula. don't forget this. Write it down if you need to. Here's the formula. It's really simple. Take your blender, pack it in with 75% of the blender with powerful greens, high antioxidant, high polyphenol, high anti-aging, everything. You want those greens. Red kale, Russian kale, all kinds of kale, spinach, chard, all of those greens. Get a big amount. We go to Whole Foods. Whole Foods has fabulous red kale. Red kale is great because you can actually grind up the stems as well. Delicious. Works really great. So we get the best red kale is at Whole Foods, and it's the cheapest. It's actually really good. So get the red kale, pack it in to about 75%. Then you put in a half a cup of either flaxseed, any kind, brown or golden, doesn't matter. A half a cup of flaxseed or a half a cup of chia seed. So put that in there. All right. Then you put fruit, anything you want, just to make it taste better. Pineapples, bananas, strawberries, mangoes, whatever you want. Put in there. Just put the fruit in there so it tastes good to you. Pack it all in. Oh, fill the Vitamix blender with water up to the level of the greens. So it's usually about 3 to 4 cups of water. Put that in there, let the Vitamix go to work for about 2.5, 3 minutes. Let it do its thing. And then pour it out and drink ad libitum, as much as you want, as often as you want. And it's amazing. That is your treatment for your chronic diseases. It's an anti-inflammatory dietary approach. It's the highest level of being able to decrease inflammation. So I have several of my clients on this approach, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Now, you may have a detox reaction. You may clear out some of these things. One of my clients, he is recovering from pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer. Now, he has had a tough go of it the last 15 years because he's had prostate cancer, heart disease, and now pancreatic cancer. And this poor man has been beleaguered by his physicians because he's thinking, here comes another negative diagnosis. And I've been believing in him, and I've been telling him, look, this is going to work for you. I promise you it's going to work. I know. I've seen the evidence with Dr. Goldner. I've seen it with her patients. She's been doing this for 15 years. I've been seeing it for myself. I see it with other people that I work with. You've got to believe. You got to believe. His name is Bob. And I said, Bob, stick with me. We're going to get there. So then he goes to his oncologist, and they do a CAT scan, and they find some lesions on his liver. And the doctors, of course, you know what the doctors do? They say, should be suspicious for metastatic cancer and everything else. They give him the picture of gloom and doom. And so he comes to me and he says, oh my gosh, I'm really worried about this. The anxiety built up. Remember, our words are powerful. And I said, Bob, this is not to be unexpected, all right? You're detoxing. You're doing the green smoothies. You're doing a great job with them. So your liver is your detox organ, so you may have some things just clearing out. That's what I'm going to hold as the intention that that's what's happening. So earlier this week, he had his biopsies done on the liver. And yesterday, he got the report, and he called me. The pathology report shows mild inflammation, no evidence of tumor whatsoever. He was so elated. He said, finally, I get a break. I get a break. That's what he was just hoping for, to get a break. How many of you know people that need a break? They need a break from their chronic disease. Yeah. There is hope. I want you to know that. There is hope for people who suffer from chronic diseases. There really is. And I'm absolutely, firmly believing this. And it really makes a difference. So April and I, we offer services to people and help people. Our mission is to help people. We're doing free screenings today. We'll measure your blood pressure. We'll measure your body composition. We'll sit down with you. Some of you got measured already. Raise your hands if you got measured already. See, some of them already here. So go ahead, come on over and see us. We'll be happy to serve you today. I have lots of things that I do. I do individual consultations. April is a clinical plant-based nutritionist. How many of you would like to have a clinical plant-based nutritionist to work with? And she's a personal trainer. She will kick your butt. Right. Yes, she will. And she's really terrific. She had a scare with her health. a little over a year and a half ago, when the doctor told her that she thought she heard blood on her gallbladder, but it was sludge on her gallbladder. And the doctor said, oh, that's caused by meat and dairy. Of course, he didn't educate her on stopping the meat and dairy. Her sister, who's been vegan for 8 years, said, watch forks over knives. Well, she had the whole week off. She watched about 50 documentaries that week, and she's been plant-based ever since. And she's committed to this and passionate about this, and she's doing just great work. So she is my partner, and we are a lifestyle medicine team. And so I do lifestyle medicine consultations. I specialize in working with people who have clinical complicated conditions. I work with them, very comprehensive. I also have a group coaching program. My next program, I'm so excited. My next program is going to be, we're going to come back to being live and in person. So we're going to do a retreat. We're going to do a full-scale retreat at the only vegan resort. Can anybody tell me where the only vegan resort is? The Stanford Inn on the Mendocino coast overlooking the ocean. It's going to be fabulous. We're going to spend an entire week. We're going to come in Sunday afternoon, have dinner together, and we're going to be working together. It's going to be a vacation course, emphasis on vacation. We're going to have an amazing time. We'll do the work of the whole program, and we'll finish up Saturday afternoon. It's going to be extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. I hope you want to join me. It's limited. I'm only going to do a dozen people for the program. That's it. I already got people scratching to get in. So it's going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time doing that. And then I also do individual coaching as well. So I do that. Questions, comments, insights, ahas. Yes, I do. The next program is going to be October 10th through the 16th. October 10th through the 16th. Hopefully you don't have any travel plans, because I know you and your lovely husband love to travel. So it's going to be October 10th through the 16th up in Mendocino. I've got an online program going on right now. It's already in progress, so everybody's locked in. Other questions, comments, anything at all? Yes?
So we've all been in an empathetic state for the past year. How do you motivate people to want to promote themselves in better health?
Okay, the question is, how do we motivate people to be in better health, especially after a full year and a half being in the sympathetic state with COVID-19? It's a great question. So I have a webinar. By the way, go to my website, which is coachruben, RUBEN.com. And then at the top, there's a tab that says videos. I've got loads of videos. I got webinars that are 2 hours plus each, and there's a lot of them. One of them is thriving being vegan or plant-based in an unfriendly world. Because there's a little hostility towards us. How many of you know that there's a little hostility towards people who are vegan sometimes? Yeah, it happens. I've been doing this. And by the way, I changed my diet after I did that autopsy. I started changing my diet, and I've been strictly vegan and plant-based since early 1995. So here's what I would recommend. Some people are coachable. Some people are not so coachable. So you have to kind of determine what's going on over there. Ask them. Ask questions. Be curious. Would you be interested in finding out something that could actually help you with what you've been complaining about, that I've been hearing you talk about, that you're concerned and worried about? You've been talking about your hypertension. You've been talking about your weight. You've been talking about whatever it is. And just reflect it back in a way. Would you be interested in finding out something that could actually help you? Because sometimes people just want to vent, right? And that's all they want to do. They don't care about solving the problems. They just want to vent. How many of you know people like that? That's all they want to do. They just want to talk, but they don't want to do anything. So you want to find out if they really want to do anything. So it's a good way to really approach it. And then the other thing is, what I talk about in my webinars, it helps for people to be able to really make a change, is to be able to look at a story. Instead of you telling them what to do or suggesting what to do, share with them a story of somebody like them. So forksoverdrives.com, they have a tab on success stories, and you can search. So you can search for people with diabetes, people with heart disease, people with weight, people with fibromyalgia, people with this. You can search, and then what I do is I send them the stories. I said, here's something, if you're really interested, first I determine if they're interested, if they're willing to be coachable. Are you interested in making a difference with your issue and your problem? If the answer is yes, I may have some information for you. Do you mind if I send you some stories for you to read? I don't try to preach to them at all. And then what I do is I search on Forks Over Knives, I search all the relative stories, and then I send it to them. And then if they are really interested, they'll read them. And then I put in the email, let me know after you've had a chance to read through these. I'll follow up with you in about a week. And I do that, and I said, so what do you think of the stories? What did you see for yourself? Is there an opportunity that you would like to pursue, perhaps? It's an invitation. So we cannot motivate another person. Motivation comes from within. So what we have to do is be inviting. So be inviting, as you would invite somebody to a wedding, a party, to watch a movie with you at a theater. You would be inviting. Hey, I saw the trailer for this amazing movie. You know how you and I love documentaries about plant-based eating. Let's go. All right, so you want to be very inviting, and that's a really great way to approach it. All right, very good. Who else? Other questions? Yes, over here. Okay, sure. Yeah, so the ketogenic diet, the Atkins diet, the South Beach diet, the Zone diet, all those diets all promote high protein, low fat, low carb. Okay, that's the big deal for them. Some of them are high fat. A lot of them are high fat. But the thing is, what we know, so I'll share with you this. In 2004, at Yale University, they developed a new technology to be able to look inside of the cells in a live state and actually trace everything going in and out of the cells. Remarkable technology. Now, they actually studied diabetics, and they were looking at the muscle cells of the diabetics, and what they saw shocked them. It shocked everybody. Because what they saw was that the muscle cells of these diabetics were showing what they call intramyocellular lipid. There were pools of intramyocellular lipid, which is a fancy word for fat. Exactly. Now, this is shocking news. Why? Because muscle cells are normally 90% water. But fat is oil. So do oil and water mix? No, they don't. All right, so I want everybody to do this experiment. When you get home, I want you to take a glass out, and then I want you to take some water and some oil, pour them into the glass. Where does the oil go? It goes to the top. It forms a slick. All right? So what happens out in the ocean, a river, stream, or a lake, when there's an oil spill? Where does the oil go? To the top. What happens to the marine life underneath? Not so good. They die. They go belly up. They go belly up and they die. They suffocate. They suffocate. The fish are living in the stream or the lake or the ocean, but the oil slick is suffocating them and the fish can't breathe, therefore they die. Each cell in our body is a miniature ocean. So when we eat all this fat, the fat, we didn't see this. We thought fat only goes to the fat cells. Wrong. Fat actually gets into all the cells. And then it forms this oil slick on the inside of the cell, causing this oil slick. But where's the surface on the inside of the cell? It's underneath the insulin receptor, underneath the glucose channels. So it suffocates the cells from the inside. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens over time as we get more and more fat. We create more of an oil slick, and we start to suffocate more and more cells. Now, here's another mechanism for you. If you do that enough, some cells will trigger the sympathetic survival mechanism, and the cell says, I can't breathe. Replicate and mutate so that I can live. I have to replicate and mutate so I can live. It's going to replicate into 2 cells, but it's going to mutate so it doesn't need the insulin receptors. It can be fed directly by sugar. And that is what we call a cancer cell. So all this excess fat over time helps to promote cancer development. So you want to look up the research. Check it out. 2004, Yale University. It's a brilliant research, amazing. Based on that research, Dr. Neil Barnard actually did the research. He did a 22-week study and then a 72-week study. And what he took diabetics, randomly assigned them into 2 different groups. One group followed the American Diabetic Association diet. The other group followed the low-fat, whole food, plant-based approach. This group got a little bit better because they were following like an Atkins paleo ketogenic type of diet, right? So it was high protein, low fat, low carb. No, it was still high fat. This group, 3 times more effective than the American Diabetic Association diet. As a result, and by the way, they published the results in 2006 in the Journal of the American Diabetic Association. Do you think all the doctors read it? No. Okay, the thing is, it's in the journal. And now the American Diabetes Association has finally come on board because of all this overwhelming research that shows unequivocally that fat contributes to the cause and development of diabetes. So now they're on board with a whole food plant-based diet. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, we're coming around. By the way, the average time it takes for your early adopter physicians to get the research information to start to be able to apply it, did you know it's 12 years? 12 years for the early adopter physicians. So I'm giving you early adopter information. So hopefully you can use this. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I'll stay and answer all questions that you have. Come and visit me. Thank you for being here. Have fun today. Have a great time. Thank you for supporting this event. My good friend Miguel Castillo is the person who puts this all together. So it's been my honor, my privilege to spend this time with you. Live long and prosper.